Hello everyone, welcome to course International Organization and Global Governance, Chapter 6, Governing the Social and Economic World. At the end of this chapter, you will be able to evaluate the United Nations system. You can explain the role of the United Nations in managing global social issues. You can comprehend the basic structure of the global economic governance. You can analyze the new International Economic Order initiative. And finally, you will be able to assess the problems of global governance. In this chapter, there are 5 main titles. The first one is the United Nations system. The second one regarding the global governance of social issues. The third one is global economic governance. The fourth one, the new International Economic Order. And the final one, the problems of global governance and emergence of new mechanisms. Let's start with the United Nations system with regard to economic and social issues. So there are 2 important UN body with regard to economic and social problems in the globe. The first one is the United Nations General Assembly, and the second one is the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. These 2 bodies perform significant functions with regard to economic and social problems. For instance, they set standards, they create new norms, they facilitate cooperation between in states and between state and civil society, and also they contribute to codification of international law with regard to social and economic world. Of course, the Economic and Social Council is the main responsible body for the economic and social affairs of the world. It includes 18 members, and we know that 70% of the UN budget goes to Economic and Social Council and its agencies. So it is the main responsible body within the UN system. And also there are some important units under the Secretariat we should mention who are responsible for global economic and social affairs. These are the United Nations Office for Coordination of Human Affairs, UN Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UN Office on Drugs and Crime, the UN Office of High Representative for the Less Developed Countries, Landlocked Developing Countries, and Small Island Developing Countries, and finally the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. These are the units under the Secretariat. So as for global governance of social issues, UN perform activities or acts in 4 basic fields. The first one is the human rights. We know that in human rights, the United Nations created 3 types of human rights, or 3 waves of human rights. The first one is the civil and political rights, which included right to life, liberty, and property. The second wave of human rights, which UN contributed, economic, social, and cultural rights, such as the right to social security, education, and healthcare. And the final one is the solidarity rights or group rights, such as self-determination, environmental protection, that UN has significant roles. And also we know that there are significant international treaties regarding to human rights. With regard to human rights, these are the first significant international document, official document, is 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is an important step towards the creation of human rights step. And also in 1966 there are 2 different covenants with regard to human rights adopted by the UN General Assembly. The first one is the UN International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the second one, International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. These are created international human rights bills and created the international human rights regime. In terms of human development, of course, United Nations perform significant roles, and there are 2 main bodies or 2 main agencies that we can focus on. The first one is the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, which try to promote international peace through supporting education, culture, and science. And also UN Children's Fund is a significant in terms of human development. This agency tries to promote children's rights for a long time. UN also play important roles in environmental development as well. The first one, in terms of the first major topic in terms of environmental development, is the climate change. And also throughout the UN history, there are important declarations and protocols and agreements, and also summits with regard to environmental development. For instance, the Declaration on Social Progress and Development in 1969 is significant, and also Helsinki Declaration on the protection of the ozone layer, which was accepted in 1989, was a significant development. We know that Kyoto Protocol in terms of climate change was accepted in 1997 under the sponsorship of the UN, and also finally Paris Agreement on Global Warming and Climate Change was accepted in 2015. UN also performed significant functions in terms of labor, migration, and global health issues too. International Labour Organization, in fact, was established just after the First World War in 1919 as a part of the League of Nations, but it still exists. So International Labour Organization tries to promote social justice and workers' rights. And also World Health Organization, which was created in 1948, tried to promote global health. And also in terms of migration, which is a significant problem nowadays, is under the administration of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. In terms of economic governance, the global economic governance, there are some bodies outside the UN, part of the international system. There are some bodies within the UN, we know. For instance, we call that Bretton Woods system, which was created just after the war. International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, these are important institutions of the Bretton Woods system, international financial system, which we also consider this system as the Washington Consensus. And also there are important international organizations which oversee the international trade. The General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade was responsible during the Cold War and in the early 90s for the administration of the international trade. But in 1995, the World Trade Organization was established in order to promote and in order to oversee the international trade. And also there are some important UN activities in official development and aid and humanitarian assistance. UN conduct some sort of overseas foreign assistance or official development aid of other states. And also UN have been one of the important organizations along with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. These are important organizations to organize, provide official aids. Not only UN, but these organizations are also important. In terms of the new international economic order, this was a suggestion by the promoted by the developing countries, and it has a history. It's part of South-South cooperation as well. The first step towards the new international economic order was the Bonding Conference, which was held in 1951. And at that conference, countries in the third world countries paved the way for the creation of non-aligned movements. Non-aligned movements included, for instance, India, Yugoslavia, Egypt. These countries were critical of Cold War division. They tried to follow some sort of non-aligned foreign policy during the Cold War, and of course they also advocated the self-determination. They advocated the independence of colonized countries, and they also advocated for international norms in terms of development as well. In 1964, some developing countries, in addition to non-aligned movement countries, created the Group of 77. This was important in terms of the development of the less developed countries, so they advocated decolonization and the right to develop. So they emphasize the inequality within the international system in terms of economic inequality. And there are significant summits as part of the new international economic order. Rio Earth Summit in 1992 was important. Cairo Conference on Population and Development, Copenhagen Social Summit, South Summit in Havana, Cuba, Marrakesh Declaration, Doha Declaration, and finally Millennium Development Goals adopted by the UN are significant in terms of the new international economic order. Of course, there are some problems of the global governance, and there are some new emerged mechanisms. What are the criticisms or weaknesses of the global governance? The first one is the lack of fair representation, and also there are problems in terms of global social injustices and economic equalities. There are some income equalities between different nations. So these problems gave or fueled new waves in terms of anti-globalization and anti-capitalist movements. And also we know that the financial crisis of 2007 was a significant challenge to the global governance. Still, Western countries, developed countries are trying to fight against and find some solutions. And also there are some alternatives created by emerging countries such as China, Russia, Brazil, India to the Bretton Woods system, to the Bretton Woods institutions. And also there is a new group of countries called Group of 20, G20. This G20 included not only developed Western countries but also other emerging economies as well. So these are the new waves in global governance. So in this video and in this chapter, we covered the United Nations system, and then global governance of social issues, and then global economic governance, and the new international economic order, and finally we focus on the problems of global governance and the emergence of the new mechanisms. Thank you for joining me.